Welcome in, Falcons fans. It's your boy Bryce Lewis back at it again for more Atlanta Falcons content. And if you're watching this, you clearly see we have a very special guest with us today. NFL Network senior national reporter Steve Wyche, and a good friend of the show. I guess you could say he's filling his yearly quota with us. Steve, how are you doing today, man? Welcome in.
Doing great, man. It's my birthday. It's
really
my last year in the 50s. So
okay, happy birthday.
Hanging with me.
Happy birthday, man.
Thank you, man. We've had to put this off a couple times. We were supposed to do it last week, and then we had the unfortunate timing of Jim Irsay's passing, and I was busy. So I appreciate you being flexible.
Yeah, man. Obviously, I always try to be flexible, man. I try to do that, but hey, I didn't know it was a special day, man. So I guess it's a special episode. I guess we can go with that. But hey, listen. Last time we talked, that was when the Raheem Morris era had started.
Yep.
A lot of changes have happened. Kirk Cousins became quarterback. A lot has happened since then.
Yes.
A lot has happened. So we're going to talk about that today. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. The first thing I want to ask you about is obviously going into this offseason, the Falcons knew they had issues to address, especially on the defensive side of the ball, especially the pass rush, along with some questions that maybe you feel a bit better about, like the quarterback position after seeing what happened with Michael Penix at the end of the year. So my first question is, going into this offseason, how do you feel about the Falcons' plan of addressing their issues, how they've addressed it? They've made a lot of low-key, I like to say, underrated signings in free agency. Nothing too splashy, but it really felt like the draft is where they wanted to make their impact. So how do you feel about their plan after kind of seeing it play out throughout the offseason?
Well, I mean, they made it obvious, right? 31 sacks, once again, next to the last in the NFL. For the past 5 years, they've finished 31st or 32nd. There's only 32 teams in sacks on the quarterback. And so they will go out and they signed Leonard Floyd, right? A veteran outside linebacker who has a history with Raheem Morris from their days together in Los Angeles. He's a guy you can count on to be on that 9 or 10 sack range, but he also sets up other guys very well. They go out, they get Morgan Fox, another guy, right? Plays that 5 technique defensive end at 34 that Raheem Morris has history with from his days with the Rams, right? Very solid, pretty athletic guy, sets the edge, things like that. So clearly defensive front was the issue. So they get 2 veterans with ties to the head coach. And of course they get the 2 first-round draft picks, with Edwards and Pierce. I'm sorry?
Javon Walker.
Why I say Edwards?
You're good.
I'm thinking 49ers. Javon Walker and Pierce. 2 versatile guys who have a lot to prove, especially now that they've got that first-round status on them. So we'll see how they're used. We'll see if they make any more moves. I don't think that Jalen Ramsey rumor is going to go away anytime soon until it does, because of his history and relationship with Raheem Morris and his versatility. So, look, they had to get better on defense. I mean, offense is not great, but I think with Penix back there, they're going to be able to open things up a lot more. The passing game is going to change some. So they addressed what they had to address. They understand, this old best player available business is what it is. They got needs, and they went out and they addressed them depth-wise, experience-wise, and athleticism-wise. Now they have to go out and make plays.
Yeah, and bouncing off your point, mentioning Penix, there's a lot of, expectations for him coming into his first full season as the starter, second year in the league, and I think a lot of people are excited about him. We know about the arm talent. We know some of the things we saw in those last 3 games of the season, put into a very high pressure position for them fighting for playoffs. Can you talk about a little bit about why the Falcons are so high on him, and even give your viewpoint on Michael Penix going into his first full year as a starter?
Well, they're high on him because he's got to produce, right? He could be the job saver that Brock Purdy has been out in San Francisco, right? Everyone forgets that they gave up a ton to draft Trey Lance because Brock Purdy, who came in the same draft, has backstopped it, been very, very good, just got paid, right? So now Michael Penix would be the same thing with Kirk Cousins. That didn't work out. Kirk got hurt. Now it's in disarray a little bit. But Penix is an incredible product last preseason. We're like, oh my God, we can't showcase this guy because other teams will see what we have. And then basically our fans will see what they have. And they wonder why he's sitting on the bench and Kirk Cousins is starting. So look, they've got a whole, they've had the body work at the end of last season, after having him in practice all year. It's his second year. He knows the system. Zach Robinson is a very creative play designer and play caller. So now he's got a guy who can move a little bit, who can stretch the field with his arm. Now he's just got to develop the trust with his receivers. And, again, you got to execute when you have to. The one thing we saw in college in big games, he executed in pressure moments. All right, that translates. And so if he can do that for the Falcons with the talent that they have and their ability to run the ball, it should be a very good football team.
And I want to follow up on that because you kind of mentioned this a little bit. Running.
Yep.
That is something that Penix can do. I believe he ran like a 4.4, 4.5 coming out, but it wasn't something he did a lot in college. Do you see the Falcons maybe integrating more quarterback runs for Penix this year, or do you see maybe more of how Russell Wilson uses his legs to keep plays alive?
Yeah, it's only for extending plays. This guy has blown out his ACL twice. I mean that's why he is where he is. No, you are not exposing him. He's a big target. And why do that? Again, he's not Lamar, right? You don't want him to be Lamar. He is a beautiful passer of the football. You want that to be him. He can play from the pocket. He can bootleg, stretch things out, extend plays. That's all you want from him. Just don't make mistakes. Protect the football. Throw the ball on time. Throw it accurately. Hit the big play when you have to hit the big play. Because the one thing the Falcons have not had since the prime years of Matt Ryan is a quarterback who can win ball games when you have to win them. Right? Great quarterbacks make plays. Yeah, we can talk about managing offenses and this and that, but great quarterbacks make plays and you have to make them. That's what they're hoping Michael Penix can do.
Okay. And so staying on the quarterbacks, now obviously switching over to Kirk Cousins, the other big, question mark surrounding the team. Now, we know with them taking the stance that they're taking that it could be a little weird with Kirk being there. Now, he isn't at OTAs right now, which I think people expected. But do you see it potentially becoming a distraction for Penix and the team, or it's kind of one of those things we're prepared for it and we will just go about business as usual?
Well, it'll be a distraction if they don't communicate well. Like, I don't think they will. I mean, Kirk is such a pro in terms of how he deals with his teammates, right? Clearly, he can understand the difference between that and how he deals with the organization. I do think he'll be moved. I don't know where right now. I think the Pittsburgh thing is out there. But does he want to waive his no trade clause for that? I think he'll waive it because he'll get to play for a good organization. We'll see who else might need a quarterback down the line. I don't think the Falcons will say, hey, stay away. That's a dangerous game to play. Unless Kirk is like, let me stay away. But then that's him not getting reps. That's him not doing stuff he needs to do to stay fresh in case he goes to another team. So it's a very awkward situation. But I do think how Kirk deals with his teammates, he can draw the line between how he deals with the organization and his teammates. So if he is in that locker room, he'll be cool with Penix. He'll be cool with the quarterbacks. He'll be cool with the other guys in that room. And, if they've got to hang on to him, you never know in case Penix gets hurt and he gets to play. There's been odder situations than this in the NFL. But I do think at some point before week 1, he will be on a different team.
Okay. And I know that's obviously, like I said, something that will be lingering. And so as a team, you may want to get rid of that and just, be able to have it be like, hey, Penix, it's you, and there's nothing else that you have to worry about. So let's go ahead and switch sides of the ball. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball.
Yep.
Obviously, I want to get a little bit into the draft. We do kind of mention Walker and Pierce earlier, but I think for the most part, especially the first 4 picks of the Falcons draft, knowing they had limited draft picks, a lot of people feel like they really attacked issues that they have, but also those picks kind of signaled more of an identity, especially under new defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich, just guys who can get after it. But then even in the back end, getting guys like Bowman Jr. and Xavier Watts, guys who are ball hawks. And even some people are excited about some of the undrafted guys like Kobe Bryant and Nick Nash. What did you think of their draft class as a whole in terms of what they were trying to do and what they were trying to continue to build there?
Well, here's where a lot of us get caught up when it comes to draft, is we see the immediate impact of guys. Yeah. I think they did a great job of getting immediate impact guys, but also planning for the future, right? Leonard Floyd's a 1 or 2 year guy, right? He's been in this league for a while. Jesse Bates, if he's got 5 years in him, great. If he's got 2 or 3, great. They're starting to backstop guys. They're starting to look at some of the contracts and how they want to maybe use their money. So they drafted and acquired depth, starters, depth. You get 2 edge guys in the first round this year. It's 4 years now before you got to pay either one of them. So you can do some things. You've got a window now. You got a quarterback on a rookie contract. You got 2 edge guys, 2 premium high-paid positions that you can work with on rookie contracts. Okay, smart thinking. Now you just have to hope everybody can play and execute. So again, they acquire players to hit on immediate needs. You are not going to win in the NFL if you do not affect the quarterback. The Falcons have not affected the quarterback. A.J. Terrell, great corner. Yeah, but the quarterback's got all day. You can be Jarrell Revis. You can be Rod Woodson. You're gonna get beat, right? So instead of trying to constantly manufacture pressure, they're hoping they got guys who can win, right? Leonard Floyd's gonna win from time to time, but he's got to set up his D tackles, and that's one thing I like about these edge guys you got because they're versatile players. Like Pierce, he played a lot of left defensive end at Tennessee, but you can do some things with him and Ebiketie. You can do some things, with Floyd and Walker. You can, they play different positions. So that versatility is going to allow Ulbrich to be real creative with some of the personnel he has. And if they can start playing with leads where they can run the ball and let these guys get after the quarterback, that's huge. You can't have these games keep going toe-to-toe, for 4 quarters and expect to win them all. It's just not going to happen in the NFL. I mean, 1 year it'll happen, 1 year it won't. So, but I do like the talent they acquired. Again, I see things kind of big picture, just looking at expiring contracts, age of players, short-term impact, long-term development impact. And I think they've done a good job in principle with that. They just have to hope they can develop these guys and these guys can execute.
Yeah, and I think that's obviously something they've believed in, is just development from their coaches and just making sure they can give the guys the support they need so they can be the best they can use, and obviously being able to use them in the most effective manner, which is one of the reasons why they made a change at defensive coordinator, especially on the defensive side, from Jimmy Lake to Jeff Ulbrich. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that hire. What should Falcons fans expect from Jeff Ulbrich and how he's going to coach this defense and just, because he has experience obviously with the Jets previously, but now in Atlanta back with Raheem.
Yeah, I mean, Brick's been in Atlanta before. Like, he's done this before with Raheem. So that's always huge when you've got someone who's been in a play calling position, working with somebody he's familiar with and confident with, and somebody who he's collaborative with. Like, they've got a very good relationship. So now, Brick, you saw last year what happened with the Jets when they took him out of his DC spot and he had to become the interim head coach. That defense, which was talented, fell apart. Right? He couldn't get his hands all over it because he's busy managing a whole lot of other things. So I think he's a grinder who, once he gets in there, they're going to be a north-south defense. They're going to get after it. They will attack. At times they're going to have to react, but they will attack, which is going to leave some guys in the back end. You guys better play. We're getting after the quarterback. You guys better be able to make plays. And so, and you better be able to tackle in the open field. And so I think that's why – they went out. I'm blanking on the veteran linebacker that they added.
Diablo?
Yeah, Divine Diablo. This dude can run all over the place, right? He's not a big dude, but he's long, can run. Another dude to add, to Troy Anderson and Caden Ellis, 2 guys who can run. Caden Ellis, by the way, to me, is the most underappreciated player in the NFL. He's a hell of a freaking player. And so guys who can run, guys who can tackle in the open field. Okay, that's going to be hugely important. And that's why having a cleanup guy like Jesse Bates is important. I think he'll play a lot more free safety as a cleanup type of dude and closer to the line of scrimmage, just because he's a guy who can backstop a whole lot of things. And so, again, they're going to be aggressive. It's all going to come down to execute. Right now we can talk a lot about theory and ideology, but can't all of these guys work together? Because I think this is a huge year for everybody in this organization.
Yeah, and I think too, we know the pressure of them. Basically, it feels like a playoffs or bust kind of year. You felt like that last year, but even more this year. I do want to follow up on what you mentioned about Jalen Ramsey earlier. Just your thoughts. Do you think the Falcons should be still looking to try to make that move, in your opinion? And I guess how likely do you see that being at this point in the offseason?
Right now, I don't think it's something like, "Woo, if we get him, he puts us over the top."
Mm.
And that's why I don't think they're going to be rushing to make this move. I'm just not discounting it because his relationship with Raheem Morris is as strong as it could possibly get.
Mm.
They have had conversations in past years, and I've had them with both of them, with Jalen and Raheem, about Jalen eventually moving back to a safety spot, right? Jalen, the guy he models his game after, is Charles Woodson, right? You've seen Jalen play the corner. You've seen him play in the slot with some outside linebacker principles. Haven't seen him play much safety. Well, Charles Woodson did that later in his career when he went to Green Bay. And again, Jalen just really respects Charles Woodson's game and patterns his after that. And Raheem, that's how he coaches. He wants that player who can be that versatile. Doesn't quite have it right now, even though they do a lot of things with Jesse Bates. So I wouldn't rule it out. That's all I'll say. I wouldn't necessarily pursue that right now if I were them, because it's going to be a big money deal. It's more of a short-term order, a 2 or 3 year deal than a long-term fix. So if I were them, I'd try and develop some of the guys that they have. But Jalen Ramsey is a difference maker. And again, if you think he is the swing vote to helping shut down everybody from KDOT and, to the tight end of Tampa Bay, to the receivers in New Orleans, to everything you have to do in the division, then you make the move. But if he's not the swing vote who gets you to the second round, to the divisional round of the playoffs, develop your guys, score points, and let these pass rushers play with a lead so they can get after the quarterback.
Yeah, and I think too, like I said, where they are, obviously they gave up the first next year for James Pierce Jr. when they trade back up into the first round. So some people may be like, all right, even though you are kind of betting on this year, you got to be really careful about, I guess, making more moves, getting rid of more future draft capital. But let's go back over to the offense and let's talk about Kyle Pitts. Obviously, this is last year deal, a lot of pressure on Pitts. I know Penix earlier this offseason wanted Pitts to stick around if there was any type of indication or conversations about potentially moving him. Maybe there is a potential, could Penix unlock Pitts? They're opening up the offense more. Zach Robinson's mentioned that. Can you just talk about, Pitts going into this year, how crucial of a year it is, and what is it that we need to see from him so we know if this is a guy the Falcons need to move on from or keep around?
Great question, because there's just so much thought on Kyle Pitts from inside and outside the building, and a lot of it centers on how good does he really want to be, right? We know the talent is there. We've seen flashes of it, but when you watch him play, I used to cover the NBA, and there's an old saying, get the big man the ball early to get him involved and keep him involved. Well, it seems like Kyle Pitts, if he doesn't get the ball early, he's lost, right? He doesn't feel involved, and therefore that talent, you're playing 10 on 11 sometimes. That's where it's up to him, because in football, as a receiver, great receivers touch the ball 5 times a game, right? You're not going to get it all the time. And that's why I respect someone like George Kittle so much. He's like, frick it, if I get the ball twice, okay, I'm going to make sure I'm going to get 35 yards, maybe a touchdown, a first, but I'm going to block. I'm going to set up everybody else on my team. I'm going to run a route which clears a path for another receiver to hit the big play, right? And I don't think they've seen that out of Pitts, which is why, they haven't paid him yet. They haven't extended him yet. We don't know what he is. And the one thing about the NFL is pretty much, other than quarterback, by the 4th year, even if you've changed coordinators or play call, you kind of know what a guy is in terms of some of the things you see consistently out of him and see inconsistently. And if you consistently see question marks with Kyle Pitts, great talent, hasn't maximized it. Right now, maybe he goes to another scheme and they get more out of him, but are you going to get that consistently for 17 games? And that's what we need to see out of him. So whether he's motivated by money, by growing because he's still very young, whatever the motivation is, he's got to find it. He's got to go there. He's got to go there if he is going to maximize that ability and the potential, which is still hanging over him, that he possesses.
Yeah, and I think too, obviously there's been a lot of discussion, like, the quarterbacks have been a rotating door and obviously different types of ways we use them. But at the end of the day, you were right. I mean, he's going into year 5.
Yep.
So, I mean, at this point, it's like you got to produce or, like I said, the Falcons will make their decision and they'll let you go. So let's stay on that side of the ball. Let's talk about Bijan for a minute. A guy who people would say probably one of the most skilled backs in the league. We've seen the highlights. We know what type of running back he can be. But some people still feel like there's another level that he hasn't maybe reached yet. And so I want to get your thoughts on that. What is it with Bijan that you may be going into his 3rd year you want to see from him this year? Because we've seen the pass blocking, we've seen ability to retach out of the backfield, we've seen some of the things. But what is it from you where like Bijan does this, he can take that next step?
Well, I mean, I think now he's got to be a finisher like we saw Saquon do, right? And that's where, again, the Falcons have not played with leads, is to where he can hit that 40-yard touchdown run and it's a wrap. I think he's one of the most quality players in the NFL. I mean, we look at what Saquon did last year and Derrick Henry did last year, and forget that Bijan almost had 2,000 total yards rushing and receiving. And this is splitting time with Tyler Algier. So, I mean, there's not a ton you need to see out of him. I want to, how does he work in this offense, which I think is going to be a little bit more pass-centric because of the quarterback.
Mm.
But he's as complete of it. If he can hit that big play or whatever just to break a team, he's got the ability to do it. It's just a matter now if you got a defense that can also stifle the opponent so that big play seals the deal.
Yeah, and I think if he does that, obviously, that just adds a more big play element, which I think in general the offense is trying to become a more big play offense.
Yeah,
I think especially when you have a guy like Penix who can stretch the field. Like one of the things with Kirk was like, okay, how much arm strength does he have at this point, et cetera, coming off injuries. Penix can stretch it all over the field. And so that really goes into the receivers that they have. And, it's funny because their best receiver, you would say, isn't even their fastest or a guy who's known as a big play guy, but can go downfield, but more of a jump ball guy in Drake London. Mm-hmm. What have you seen from Drake London his first few years? I know he just had his first 1,000-yard season last year. A guy who, just they use him different ways, outside, power slot, and big target. Is there anything that you're maybe looking forward to seeing from him this year? Is it just continuing to build off of last year? Especially because he's going to have his contract negotiations probably coming up. Maybe not this season, but maybe the next offseason.
More explosive plays. He does have the ability. You talk about a jump ball guy. He's got the ability to stretch the field. I mean, Mike Evans, jump ball guy, stretch the field, gets open a lot more than what people think. He's not just a 50-50 guy. And I think that's going to be in partnership with Darnell Mooney. I spoke with someone there recently. He said, you're going to see Mooney used in a lot of different ways this year, and that's going to help out Drake London, right? Maybe single London up a little bit more. Maybe do some things that allow him to catch and run it a little bit more. The one thing you don't see out of London much is catch and run. Usually it's catch, contact, move the chains, and you're going. If he can catch and run a little bit more, okay, now you're like, okay, this guy's taking his game, to a little bit of a different level. All right, he's Keenan Allen a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So I think that potential is there. Again, and the person I spoke with, I think with Darnell Mooney, who they love, I would expect him to be somebody he would have had a fantastic year last year to really escalate attention and open up the field for some of the other players.
Hey, I was a big fan of Darnell last year. I think especially coming back from, when he was in Chicago and really being able to kind of show people again, like, hey, he used to be a 1,000-yard receiver in Chicago and that was the fluke. Like he really is a really good route runner and obviously a guy who can break it open if he needs to. Let me ask you this. So obviously my first question to you was about how they attack the offseason. Right now, obviously we won't know till they hit the field and we'll see how training camp and everything goes. But with the status or the way the NFC South looks right now, Do you right now believe the Falcons should be the favorites in the NFC South?
No,
And
Tampa Bay should be the favorite.
okay,
The Falcons just have too many questions. Are these edge rushers going to develop? Right? Is Michael Penix going to protect the ball and hit the big play? Right? If is Kyle Pitts going to show up? You're not asking those questions about Tampa because they're solid. They're very good on defense. Their offensive line is no joke. Right? Baker Mayfield is plenty good. Keenan Allen, Chris Godwin, all these guys are there. Bucky Irving showed that he's a stud. Mm-hmm. They got two really good running backs down there. So, Tampa Bay is the favorite going into the season. Atlanta's got the potential, but they've had potential for 2 decades. You got to band it all together and do more than be a paper champion to prove everybody wrong. I mean, Atlanta could, but there's no way you can overlook Tampa Bay.
No, that's fair. And they won the division last 3 years, so they deserve that respect. Because like I said, this is kind of some people believe a make it or break it year for the entire regime. Do you?
I wouldn't say that. Arthur Blank.
Do you see it that way?
Arthur Blank is pretty patient, unless it's just an utter disaster. And utter disaster for Arthur Blank. Again, knowing that team means struggling in the back half of the season. He's tired of it. That means you're not coaching your guys up to develop. You're not coaching your guys up for stamina, and you're not being creative enough to beat teams the second time you face them. So, yeah, playoff. I don't know if it's playoffs or bust. I don't see him getting rid of Raheem unless it's just an utter disaster. But if these young edge rushers develop a little bit, I think they've got a real good shot to be a playoff team.
Okay, that's fair. Last question for you, Steve, and I'll let you go. But the schedule came out. I think the biggest thing people took away from it was the Falcons have the earliest, I believe, bye week you can have. When you look at that, should that be a cause of concern when your bye is so early in the season like that, especially for a team that is trying to take that next step? And you have that mini bye late with the Thursday night game, but still.
It's a great question because a lot of teams hate the early bye. But then again, a lot of teams hate the late bye because, okay, we've played 12 games in a row. We're banged up. We've played an international game. We've done the early bye, to me, is a chance to where if you get to a slow start, right, you're still developing these edge rushers. Offense hasn't come together yet. You've got a week to now set it, to make some of the changes you need to make and to rock with the guys who you're going to roll with. That's where the coaching staff has to get this in these guys' minds. Like, okay, it's week 6 is week 1 for us. Now we've got 13 games to go out and play in a row. You guys did in college, played 13 games in a row. We can do it now. There's 4 games. If we're 1-3 or 2-2, that's fine. But we want to be playing our best football in December. So you've got to keep that mentality because it is going to be a grind to get through that. Well, they play the game over are they in Germany? Where are the Falcons?
Yeah, I think, is it Berlin?
Right. I think they play the game in Germany.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different things that they're going to have to go through with that. But hey, if you want a ball, that's what you want. I mean, look at all the primetime game the Chiefs are playing, all the international games the Chiefs play. So this is what comes with it, and this is where coaching and your strength and conditioning staff, your sports science staff, all has to work together. But I love that question you asked about the early bye because, again, a lot of teams hate it because they feel like when they get into the second quarter of the season, week 5, week 6, that's when they're starting to forge their identity. And, that early break is kind of to some folks, interrupts momentum. To other folks, it's a healthy reset. So, again, this is where the coaching staff has really got to be on it across the board. I say coaching staff, not just Raheem, but the sports science, strength and conditioning, stuff like that.
Yeah, and even speaking what you were saying, I think Falcons have 5 primetime games this year. So the country's going to know if the Falcons are going to be a legit team, because they're playing some really good teams in prime time too. So that's obviously going to be a big.
Yeah, the networks are not putting bum games on prime time.
Yeah, so that shows, I guess, confidence from the league about what they maybe think this team could be. But I appreciate you, Steve, man, for coming on, man, and sharing some of your wisdom with me, man. Let people know where they can find you.
Well, social media handles at Wyche, WYCHE 89. I'm on a few times a week on the Insiders on NFL Network, 7 o'clock Eastern time. And other than that, holler at me at the Kroger, at the Ralph's. Bounce around LA and a few other stops. I will be in Atlanta the weekend of June 6th through 8th for the Black College Football Hall of Fame enshrinement ceremony. A lot of great players going in this year. Dominic Rogers, Cromartie, Rasheed Mathis, Jay Walker. So, I will be making my few appearances in the A this summer as well.
Hey, so I guess if y'all catch him out there, y'all go ahead and say hey to Steve, man.
There you go.
But yeah, man, I appreciate you for sure. And obviously, guys, y'all know where to follow me on X at Bryce_2K. If you enjoyed this episode, definitely subscribe, leave a comment down below, like the video, and everything under the sun. I appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode. But I think that's about it for us. That's Steve. I'm Bryce. See you next time.